Hello, sorry about that. Something I had a bout of illness there, so I should be okay for now. But I could leave early. Sadly, because of that, I don't think we'll be able to finish all of Fighter, because I don't think we'll have enough time. But I'll try and get through it while still keeping the reviews concise, obviously. So we got up to know your enemy. If you spend 1 minute observing or interacting with another creature outside of combat, you can learn crucial information about its capabilities compared to your own. The DM tells you if a creature is your equal, superior, or inferior in regards to the following characteristics of your choice: strength, dex, con, armor class, hit points, class level if anything, fighter class if anything. What's quite useful about this ability is you can use this, say on a say in the background you have like you meet up with what you assume is going to be the big villain. They're like maybe they're a king who's well known for being a master swordsman before ascending into the throne. You can spend a minute with the guy and use this ability. You can find out some decent information about it. Now, I feel like their current hit points is always going to be higher than yours, but there's some interesting things you can learn from this, and it can be quite cool to like give your party. Armor class is quite useful. So is like strength, learning about strength, dex, and con. Overall, I think this is a really cool ability. It makes flavorfully. It makes a decent amount of sense because it's the idea of you being so experienced in your job that you've now learned how to sort of assess somebody in some capacity, which I quite like. In this one, you just get two extra maneuvers, and your superiority die turns to a D10. So even now, whereas you saw with the Arcane Archer that it went to 4d6, this one is already scaling right now to a D10. Now, admittedly, 4d6 is better than a D10, obviously, because on average with 4d6 you're averaging a 4, so you're getting 16, and in this one you're averaging a 5. Actually, I think it's a 6, but still, 14 and 6 is a big difference. But you're only getting to 4d6 right now, which at 15th level, another 2 maneuvers, another superiority die, and at 15th level, when you roll initiative and have no superiority die, you gain 1. Now, admittedly, I'm talking about how this is better than the Arcane Archer, and I think conceptually it is, because I think I would prefer more stuff you could do in the sense of like fancy things like distracting them, moving out of combat, stuff like that, and less damage than having less things I could do but more damage. But at 15th level, you get that thing. One superiority die is actually less of a thing than the Arcane Archer because you're not getting half of your uses back, you're getting one of your uses back out of 6 at this point. Notably, though, I still feel like you get more from this. I think it's a cool ability. I think most classes have it, so there's not really much to talk about with that one. At 18th level, you gain a superiority die that's a d12. That's still not going to be scaling with the Arcane Archer, who gets 4d6, but at this point, you've got 3 times what they have. So sure, you're averaging, what is it, like a 7? And they're averaging a 14? No, a 16. But you have 3 times as many. Overall, Battlemaster's so great that as I mentioned in the previous stream now, I think it should just be a base the maneuvers should just be a base thing you get as a fighter, just to make it better, in my opinion. Cavalier. Cavalier is the one that is focused around, as you can probably expect from the name, being on a mount of some variety. At 3rd level, you get a proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice: animal handling, history, insight, performance, persuasion. Also, you learn 1 language. I think the logic here is you're like a knight, and so it makes sense for you to know about persuasion, because you're like partly nobility, and same with performance and insight because of the world of nobility. Animal handling, it makes sense because you're probably using an animal of some variety. And I guess history is like knowing your lineage in some capacity. Okay, ability, again, it's very similar to all the other abilities you've seen that you just get at 3rd level. Also at 3rd level, you have advantages on saving throws made to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet if you're not incapacitated. Finally, mounting or dismounting a creature costs you only 5 movement rather than half your speed. Effectively just a bunch of things in there to allow you to be able to actually do stuff related to being on your mount without just instantly being knocked off or having to waste half your speed. Yeah, I think that's fine. Unwavering Mark. Starting at 3rd level, you can menace your foes, foiling their attacks and punishing them for harming others. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can mark the creature until the end of your next turn. The effect ends early if you're incapacitated or you die, or if someone else marks the creature. Interesting, if someone else marks the creature, I'm assuming relates to only this ability. If not, does like Hunter's Mark work? I'm going to assume it's just this ability, but if it works for Hunter's Mark, my opinion on this gets much lower. While it's within 5 feet of you, a creature marked by you has disadvantage on any attack rolls that don't target you. In addition, if a creature marked by you deals damage to anyone other than you, you can make a special melee weapon attack against the marked creature as a bonus action on your next turn. You have advantage on the attack roll, and if it hits, it deals extra damage equal to half your fighter level. Regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make this special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier. You regain it on a long rest. So it gives you this special advantage, slightly more damage version of of an attack that you can do as a bonus action after someone else has been attacked. That feels interesting. I'm guessing the logic here is to make sure that the enemy doesn't try and attack your mount in some capacity. I think there's also I think that there's something in mounted rules where you can anything that attacks your mount you can redirect to yourself. I'd have to look that up, but I think I saw that in a D&D, which it could have been completely wrong, but that's how they played it. I like the mark. It's these little extra attacks. It's pretty useful even when you get to later on, because I mean the attacks, it's only 1 attack, but you get this little bit of extra damage, and it probably is going to hit thanks to the advantage. Overall, the 3rd level abilities are kind of just one ability that you always expect to be there, another one that makes this subclass work, and then the Unwavering Mark, Unwavering Mark is a cool ability that it doesn't scale particularly well, but I think it's still going to be useful. Because you're not going to be using your bonus action for much as a fighter. Warding Maneuver. At 7th level, you learn to fend off strikes directed at you, your mount, or other creatures nearby. If you or a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can roll a 1d8 as a reaction. If you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield, roll the die, add the number rolled to the target's AC against that attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance to the attack's damage. You can do this equal to your con mod. That's very useful. I think this ability is much more useful, because not only does it potentially make it so your friend doesn't get hit or your mount doesn't get hit, it can also mean that even if it fails, it's not like that's the end of the ability, which you can see a lot of the times with like other abilities. This one goes, no, they still get half damage from that, which is pretty huge. I like this ability a lot. Hold the line. You become a master of locking down your enemies. Creatures provoke an attack of opportunity from you when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. And if you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the target's speed is reduced to 0 until the end of the current turn. And when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. I'm seeing this as they can't move around you. Without taking an attack of opportunity, which makes the your threat range even worse. Well, sorry, even better, but worse for them. If so, this is a unique ability that I haven't actually seen done anywhere else. Coupled with the sort of pseudo sentinel ability that you get from a feat, where if you hit them, you reduce it to 0. I kind of see this one as being more tanky than I actually expected, and I quite like it as an ability. I think you'll get a lot of use out of it, especially when you couple that with the Unwavering Mark. Ferocious Charger. Starting at 15th level, you can run down your foes whether you're mounted or not. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before an attacking a creature and you hit it with the attack, the target must succeed on a strength save or be knocked prone. You can use this feature only once on each of your turns. So you get sort of the ram attack that like giant rams get, where they can knock you prone. It's useful. Bit weird to see this kind of ability at 15th level, but I guess the way that they've balanced it in some capacity is by making it not have a set number of uses, but instead just having a set number of times you can do it in a single turn. Overall, I quite like that ability. Maybe a bit weak, but I think it's still fine. Starting at 18th level, so this is the capstone ability. You respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you can get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your turn. You can use the special reaction only to make an opportunity attack. You can't use it on the same turn that you take a normal reaction. Oh, so you have infinite opportunity attacks, is what it's saying. That doesn't use your reaction. That's really cool. I don't know how often it comes up. In my experience, a lot of opportunity attack situations do not, in fact, happen often. And when they do, it's normally only one. But if you find a load of creatures and they're trying to run past you, you're trying to do your knightly duty and protect, the princess or something, or the prince. And they're all trying to run past you to get to him, and you just get to go, well, whack you, whack you, whack you. And if they're like just basic goblins at that point, you're killing them. Overall, Cavalier, very fun. I can't really complain about the abilities because all of them have a lot of uses. I just don't generally know if they're that powerful, or I don't think the Unwavering Mark is that powerful, especially once you get to the point where you have an extra attack. I think the warding maneuver is useful, but not incredible. I mean, it's just yeah. The more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, I think I quite like Cavalier. I don't think it's up there with Battlemaster, but it's definitely better than Arcane Archer. Next is Champion, which I already thought I've come to the opinion on this one, but maybe it'll be different once I look at it. Champion. Beginning when you choose this archetype at third level, your weapon attacks score a crit hit on a 19 or 20. So you've gone from a 1 in 20 chance to a 1 in 10 chance. That's significant. But that's all you're getting. There's nothing fancy with that. There's no special cool ability. That's it. And I don't particularly like that. 7th level. Starting at 7th level, you can add half your proficiency bonus round up to any strength, dex, con, or con check you make that doesn't already use your proficiency bonus. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you can cover increases by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier. Now, the problem with this ability is twofold. The first line, the first sort of paragraph, is sort of trying to make you into a very limited jack of all trades, but there's so many other classes that can do it better. And it's not even that much. You're adding an extra 2, maybe an extra 3 to it. I mean, your proficiency bonus, I don't even think gets particularly high. No, it gets a 6, so max you're adding 3 to this. It's not a huge amount. And my second problem with it is that long jumping ability. I've had that on a Blood Hunter before. It never came up. Now that could be me not using it to its full potential, but I just don't believe this ability is that useful. At 10th level, you get to choose another fighting style. Pretty useful, you get like a minor ability from that. At 15th level, your crit hit range goes from 19 to 20 to 18 and 20. So now it goes from a 1 in 20 to a 1 in 10. And now I think it would go to a 3 in 20, which doesn't mean 1 in 5. It's slightly less than 1 in 5. But yeah. It's a 3 in 20 chance. Not particularly fun, but it's not a bad ability. And then at 18th level, you attain the pinnacle of resilience. At the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your con mod. If you have no more than half your hit points left. You don't get any benefit if you're on 0. So you're gaining probably at that point 5 plus 5, so you're probably gaining 10 hit points. If you're not on, if you're below half, useful, but not that great in my opinion. Overall, you can see that I've gone through this one really quick, and it's not because I'm trying to quickly get through these. I'm trying to get through these in a concise manner where I talk about all of them to at least the ability I believe is fair for them. The problem with Champion is there's nothing to it. I don't like Champion at all. I understand it's very good for beginners because it doesn't give you a lot of abilities you have to think about. But I don't like it because I don't believe that you should be giving that to beginners. I believe you should give them something slightly more complicated that at least shows off what subclasses are actually. What they do for your character. The way that they fundamentally change how you play that character. Instead, you're in a situation like this where you're showing the most boring aspect of D&D, which is having a character that just basic attacks. Like, there's nothing fancy about it, it's just you hit them with the basic attack and that's it. So no, I'm not a particular fan of this. In fact, I think of it worse than Arcane Archer. Echo Knight. Now this one is interesting, because I've seen this one used to get a lot of attacks in some games before by Brendan Lee Mulligan, when I watched him do a level 20 thing with it. At 3rd level, you get Manifest Echo. You can use your bonus action to magically manifest an echo of yourself in an unoccupied space you can see within 15 feet of you. The echo is a magically translucent grey image of yourself that lasts until it's destroyed, until you dismiss it as a bonus action, or until you manifest another echo or incapacitated. Your echo has an AC of 14 plus proficiency bonus, so probably at this point +2, so 16 AC, 1 hit point, and is immune to all conditions. If it has to make a saving throw, it uses your saving throw bonus for the roll. It's the same size of you, it occupies a space. Once on your turn, you can mentally command the echo to move up to 30 feet in any direction. No action required. If your echo is ever more than 30 feet from you at the end of your turn, it's destroyed. You can use your echo in the following ways. As a bonus action, you can teleport / you can magically switch places with your echo at the cost of 15 feet of your movement, regardless of the distance between you two. When you take an attack action on your turn, any attacks you make with that action can originate from your space or the echo space. You make this choice for each attack. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of your echo moves at least 5 feet away, you can use your reaction to make an attack of opportunity. That ability is interesting because it sort of implies that you can. The point of an Echo Knight is to keep yourself away and use the Echo Knight to do your attacks. But the thing that worries me is it has 1 HP and its AC isn't that high. 16 is not bad, but it's not great. So I'm interested to see how they rectify that, if they rectify it. Unleash Incarnation. You can heighten your Echo's Fury. When you take an attack action, you can make 1 additional melee attack from the Echo's position. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your con mod. You gain them on a long rest. Okay, so it gives you an extra attack. A number of times equal to your con mod, which will be decently high because it will probably be the second stat you focus on. It'll be whatever does your weapon damage, and then whatever, and then con probably. Okay, so I can see the logic here now. Not only can you do attacks from it, you can also get extra attacks on it. I like these abilities. I can see the uses for them. I especially like this switch places one. I think that would be really cool, and there's loads of shenanigans you could do with that. Echo Avatar. You can temporarily transfer your consciousness to your Echo. As an action, you can see through the Echo's eyes, hear through its ears. During this time, you are deafened and blinded, so you've effectively transferred your hearing and sight to them. You can sustain this effect for 10 minutes, but you can end it at any time. No action required. While it's being used, it can be sent up to 1,000 feet away. Okay, so this one you can use it as a pseudo scout, although it's not invisible, and people will know it's you that's scouting on them if they find it. But I like the use of that. It's like you send it ahead. Maybe you can send it through some traps and maybe it activates them. I can see uses behind this. Shadow Martyr. You can make your Echo throw itself in front of attacks directed at another creature that you can see. Before the attack roll is made, you can use your reaction to teleport the Echo to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the targeted creature. The attack roll then triggers. The attack roll that triggered the reaction is instead made against your Echo. I can see the uses behind that. With 16, well, at 10th level, they'll have slightly more than 16 AC. They'll have 18 AC. So there is going to be a lot of people, a lot of spellcasters, a lot of backline that will have medium armor, but they're not focusing on dex, and light armor, and they're not focusing on dex. So they're in a situation where their AC is less than that, and so you can not only make it so they're less likely to hit in general, but also it just means they're not getting hit by your friend. No, the friend's not getting hit in any capacity. But you can only do it once, which you get it back on a short rest, which isn't bad. Reclaim Potential. You've learned to absorb the fleeting magic of your Echo. When an echo of yours is destroyed by taking damage, you gain a number of hit points, temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your con mod, provided you don't already have temp hit points. You can use this equal to your con mod. So this heavily incentivizes taking con, because there's 2 abilities now that have scaled over your constitution bonus modifier. Sorry, getting a little bit of extra health, temp health every time your echo dies. It's very useful, especially since eventually you'll run out of echoes, right? So you yourself will have to go in. So having that little extra health is always useful. And 2d6 plus con modifier isn't insignificant. It could, it could be like 2 plus 5, which is only 7, but it could also just be like 12 plus 5 and be like 17. Uh, 12 plus 5, not 10 plus 5. Legion of 1. You can use your bonus action to create 2 echoes within your manifest echo feature. These echoes can coexist. If you try to create a 3rd echo, the 2 echoes die. Anything you can do from one echo's position can be done from the others. In addition, when you roll for initiative and have no usage, you get 1 back. Okay, cool. So it turns your 1 echo ability into having 2 echoes, which is very useful. Because that just gives you more options that you can teleport between or put in situations that you can do attacks with. So yeah, I can see the use behind this. In general, I quite like this. The extra attacks that you can add in are always fun. The improvements of like being able to jump in front of them, although limited, is useful. I think generally, do I have a problem with this? I guess it doesn't really have an out of... Oh no, the Shadow Martyr thing's kind of out of combat. Well, not Shadow Martyr, the Echo Avatar is kind of out of combat. So they do even have an out of combat ability. Yeah, generally I quite like this one. No complaints. Eldritch Knight. This is the one that gives you spells. So, first off, it gives you access to wizard spells. Very useful. Wizards have the most diverse, well, not the most diverse spells, but the largest spell list. Does mean you have to focus into intelligence a bit, but you're probably fine doing that. At 3rd level, you learn a ritual. Make a magical bond between you and a weapon. It's not bad. Takes an hour. Okay. Means you can't be disarmed unless you're incapacitated. That's very useful, especially if you're fighting a battle master. You can summon the weapon as a bonus action. You can sort of sneak it in. And you can have 2 of them. That's very useful. Notably, although you're not getting access to any innately damaging abilities, the fact you get access to spellcasting in its own is a very big thing. Getting 2 1st level spells, not insignificant. Beginning at 7th level, you can use your action to cast a cantrip. You can make 1. When you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. Very useful. Means not only can you cast a spell to deal with something further away, but you can also add in this extra weapon attack. And it doesn't even have to be further away. If you have a damaging saving throw spell, then you can cast that while in melee and it won't be affected in any capacity, plus you get a weapon attack. Diversifies your damage as well, which is quite useful. Eldritch Strike. At 10th level, you learn how to make your weapon attack strike. Learn how to make your weapon strikes undercut a creature's resistance to your spells. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, the creature has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes against the spell you've cast before the end of your next turn. Okay, that's very useful. So it's not only do you hit them like you're normally going to do, but it allows you to make it so that your next spell, which could be something like a charm effect, that most of the time they're gonna succeed in, or maybe something like a poisoning effect or something, or a debuff of some kind. Just make it so they're very unlikely to succeed in that. Arcane Charge. You gain the ability to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see with it. You can see when you use your action surge. You can teleport before or after the additional action. Okay, that's very useful. So it's buffing your action surge, which is a shame because you're not going to get many of those. But it gives you a teleport, and a teleport's very useful. And the teleport's like not an insignificant amount of distance, and it doesn't say it uses your movement, so you can just teleport, move, attack, or attack, kill, teleport, move, attack again. Both situations are very good. Maneuverability is peak on this one, it seems. And finally, at 18th level, when you use your action to cast a spell, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. So it's gotten rid of the cantrip condition on it. The problem with this that I see immediately is two things. One, you only ever get to 4th. Meaning that these spells, they're not going to be useless, but they're not going to be particularly good. Most of the time, that probably means you're focusing on spells that buff yourself, which isn't necessarily bad, but it does mean that you're limiting your options. And two, all of those situations where it's talking about a cantrip and then a weapon attack, you're only getting one, and so after you get extra attack, you are sacrificing an attack. And the same can be said with the spell, although it's less of a problem, but it's still a problem for you because you're not going to be casting a 9th level spell like you could be casting if you were a full spellcaster. You're not even casting like a 5th level spell, you're casting a 4th level spell max. You only ever have one of those. So I worry that even though it looks like you get a lot of things you can do on your turn for a long period of time, you actually don't have a lot of stuff because a lot of them are just going to be buffing you. Or not even healing, I guess. I don't think I rate this one particularly high. I think I'd put it below the Cavalier but above the Arcane Archer. So second last at this point. I don't actually normally actively rank them, but I'm not really, it's just that situation. Psy Warrior. It means you have like psionic powers. So at 3rd level, you have this well of psychic powers. It's represented as Psi Energy die, very similar to the Superiority die. These are D6s instead of D8s with the Superiority die, and you have a number of them equal to twice your proficiency bonus. So it's not put onto a stat of any kind. So at this point you would have 4, same as the Superiority die. That's just telling you how they come back. They come back on a long rest. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain 1, but you get that ability back on a short rest. So you really have 5, but one of them you have to use a bonus action to get, and it scales D8, D10, D12. I think it's fine. You only have 3 abilities with this one, a lot less than the maneuvers, but when you or another creature you can see within 30 feet of you take damage, you can use your reaction to expend a psionic energy die. Roll the die, reduce the damage taken by the number rolled plus intelligence bonus. Because you make like a shield. Useful. We've seen that similar ability on... You see that similar ability in like the fighting style that I think is called like distraction or interception. I think it's interception. It's useful. It's not. It doesn't immediately pop out as being incredible. Psionic Strike. You can propel your weapon with psionic force. Once on each of your turns, immediately after you hit a target within 30 feet of you, with the attack and deal damage to it with a weapon, you can expend 1 psionic energy die, rolling it, and dealing force damage to the target equal to the number you rolled plus intelligence modifier. So a little bit of extra damage, but the damage type is the best damage type, with the least amount of things that have resistance to it. Bar, the like joke damages, like I think canonically there's custard damage. Telekinetic move. You can move an object or a creature with your mind. As an action, you can target one loose object that is large or smaller, or one willing creature other than yourself. You can see the target and is within 30 feet of you. You can move up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it's a tiny object, you can move it to and from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. Once you take the action, you can't do it again until you finish your short or long rest, unless you expend a psionic die to take it again. So what I'm getting from telekinetic move is, because it's the only one that says that final line, I'm guessing it costs you 1 to do it initially, and then 1 to get it back, and then 1 to use it again. So it costs you 2 every subsequent time until you do a short rest. I don't understand why that one's so powerful, but I guess being able to move a large object like a crate or something to block the enemy is possible. I guess you can maybe use it to push people off with something. I could see a lot of like narrative ways you can use that ability. Overall, none of these are jumping out at me as being particularly interesting. Definitely not when... We're going to keep going back to the Battlemaster because I think it's the best way people have done like what it's doing here with the wellspring of like the dice and stuff, and what was trying to be done with the arcane archer and stuff. That's sort of like you have a set of pool and you do use them. This one, I think the telekinetic move, gonna have a load of narrative fun with that one, but I think the other two ones are a bit generic. Having force damage is pretty useful. 7th level. You've mastered new ways to use your telekinetic abilities. As a bonus action, you can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of the current turn. Once you take the bonus action, you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you expend a psionic die to take it again. Okay, so similar to the telekinetic ability, except this one doesn't have an upfront psionic thing. Although now that I think about it, maybe that other one doesn't. Maybe that's the logic. Maybe they're saying that you can use it once for free, and then you have to pay to recharge it. If so, I rate that a bit higher, and I think that's how it's supposed to be read. And this one just quickly gives you like a flying speed and also double speed. Very useful. It'll come up. You'll use it to fly, to sort of sneak around, to like get into a window and stuff. You'll use it to make a dramatic like final jump to safety. You'll use that a load in narrative situations, and it won't be bad like getting if you're ranged, getting like a vantage point in some capacity. Telekinetic thrust. When you deal damage to a target with your psionic strike, okay, which would technically be this one, yeah. You can force the target to make a strength save against a DC equal to 8 plus prof bonus plus intelligence bonus. If the save fails, you can knock the target prone or move it up to 10 feet in any direction horizontally. So this just buffs the psionic strike, which initially is a bit lackluster. I like it, I really do. I feel like it could have just always been there as a 3rd level thing, but having it like this is cool. You're like force pushing them when you hit them with your attack. Making them prone is useful. I like these two abilities a lot more than I liked the other ones. Psionic energy. Okay, 10th level ability. You have resistance to psychic damage. Moreover, if you start your turn charmed or frightened, you can expand a die to get rid of the effect on yourself. Useful. Not incredibly great because of Frightened and Charmed being something that other classes can just get immunity to. This one having you spend a die is not great, especially since you have probably at this point 6. Which isn't bad, but I mean, I know I talked about using them a bit more liberally with the Battle Master, but you really want to use them to just get rid of a Charmed or Frightened effect? I guess it won't be too bad. Resistance to psychic damage it's probably not coming up. And a bit weird actually, because a lot of your abilities, I know it says Psy Warrior, but a lot of your abilities have been doing force damage, not psychic damage. But yeah, maybe it'll come up, the psychic damage. I'm not a particular big fan of this Guarded Mind ability. Bulwark of Force. You can shield yourself and others with telekinetic force. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures which can include you that you can see within 30 feet, up to a number equal to your int bonus. Each of those chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. Okay. So 1 minute is most of the time a battle, because it'll be 10 turns, and a lot of battles don't last longer than 10 turns. There are some, climactic battles or battles with a lot of enemies. But most of the time, 1 minute will be a battle. And the battle is like you get half cover. Now, I'm pretty sure half cover gives you like a slight buff to your AC plus many other effects that I don't know at the moment. I could look it up. I'll look it up. D&D half cover. Let's have a look. Target gets +2 bonus to AC and Dex saves. That's very useful. Just gives them that really good bonus without having to be behind cover. The fact that you can have somebody in melee with them and still have half cover is quite interesting. I like that little support ability. I also like that if you really, really want to use it again, which I would rate because it feels like it does a lot more than any of the other psionic abilities do, just at a base. You can just expand a psionic energy die to do it again. Right, this is the capstone ability. The ability to move creatures and objects with your mind is matched by few. You can cast a telekinesis spell, which allows you to move a creature who is unwilling 30 feet in any direction. But not beyond the range of the spell. If they fail a strength saving throw, and they're restrained until the end of your next turn, and then on your action or subsequent rounds, you can use your action to attempt do the same thing again. And then with objects, you can pick up an object, move it 30 feet, and then you can also take objects off people. Okay, and you got fine control over it. Okay, I can see the uses by that. Move somebody a load of up, really, really up. They take fall damage, move them off the cliff, that sort of stuff. Once on each of your turns where you concentrate on the spell, including the turn you cast it, you can make 1 attack with a weapon as a bonus action. That's useful, so you also get a little bit of shots in. Also, you can expand a psionic energy die to do it again. Fair enough. I think in general, with the Psy Warrior, I'm a bit disappointed. Its abilities are cool, don't get me wrong. The flying one, the getting telekinesis one, both really cool. Problem is, at base, you just get a very basic defensive one, a very basic offensive one, and telekinesis. You don't get too much to really do. I think it relies quite heavily on your narrative ability. And by narrative ability, I mean just kind of more like your adaptability, like your your ability to think on your feet of cool ways to do it and your DM to allow it. I don't think it's bad. I didn't feel inspired when I started reading its abilities. I'll be completely honest. Purple Dragon Knight. I have never looked at this one. I think it was added in like a offshoot, like sort of. I don't really understand it. It's like the dwarf barbarian that has spiked armor, in that it was so specifically for. It was so specifically for a specific kind of person that I just never even thought of. Like, I never even looked at it. Never even thought, oh, maybe like it has some form of like interesting abilities or something, and I don't need to be that because I can talk to the DM about that. So like, I don't need to be a knight of the purple dragons to use this thing, because I can just be a knight of whatever campaign it is. Anyway, Rallying Cry. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you learn how to inspire your allies to fight on past their injuries. When you use the second wind feature, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 60 feet of you that are allied with you. Each one regains hit points equal to your fighter level, provided that there are creatures that can see and hear you. Okay, so it turns your second wind feature into AoE, kind of, except they don't get your fight. They don't get your don't get the roll. So it's only a tiny bit for them, but it's useful. I like that. It's very supporty. You very rarely get these heavy support classes. Royal Envoy. A Purple Dragon Knight serves as an envoy of the crown. At 7th level, you gain proficiency in Persuasion skill. Makes sense because you're nobility. If you're already proficient in it, you gain proficiency in these other skills, sure. And you have expertise because you double your proficiency for any check that you use that uses Persuasion. Cool. You're very persuasive because you're a charismatic knight of a kingdom of some kind. Inspiring Surge. Starting at 10th level, when you use your Action Surge feature, you can choose one creature within 60 feet of you that is allied with you. That creature can make one melee or ranged attack with its reaction, provided it can see or hear you. And then at 18th level, you can choose 2 allies within 60 feet of you rather than 1. Normally, I'm a bit against just, oh, this just adds a little bit of an effect to your base fighter ability. What do I mean? But this, to me, is slightly different. Because what this does, the reason why it's different is because it seems seemingly the only one at this point that we've seen that actually does that. So it is unique in the sense that it is the only one that buffs your base fighter abilities, and all of them I quite like because they're all quite supporty ones, and I'm a big fan of support ones being a bit more of a thing. I like the image I'm seeing that. Admittedly, I think of more as being a paladin thing, but this charismatic like general of a small force, just rallying them to continue to fight and giving them energy, and then giving a command or like inspiring them by charging at a beast they thought they couldn't beat, and everyone's like, yes, let's follow him, and shoots him. Bulwark. Beginning at 15th level, you can extend the benefit of your Indomitable feature to an ally. When you decide to use Indomitable, re-roll an intelligence or a wisdom or a charisma saving throw, and you aren't incapacitated. You can choose one ally within 60 feet of you that has also failed a saving throw against the same effect. They can also use the feature. Useful. Problem is, Indomitable isn't that great. The other 2 features, sure, they're fine. But Indomitable, I just don't rate particularly highly. And so, sadly, the ability that goes around Indomitable isn't that interesting either. And we've looked at the 18th level ability. Overall, I really like the Purple Dragon Knight's idea. I think the problem with it is it isn't executed incredibly, because I think the abilities, while cool, aren't particularly powerful. There was a buff my friend is doing to fighters for one of his campaigns that not only does it buff short rests, but it also makes it so that Indomitable is a legendary resistance, effectively. And I feel like buffs to fighter or buffs to inherently getting a load of short rests and stuff could make this a bit more useful. I just think it probably needs like a second or third ability. Rune Knight. Now, I've considered doing a Rune Knight before. I really like the concept, even since I think it was in Unearthed. So I have looked through this a bit. Third level, get Smith's tools, and you learn to speak, write, and read Giant. Makes complete sense with what the whole point of Rune Knight is, which is that you're supposed to be carving runes into armor, weaponry, jewelry. And in the lore of the base Wizard of the Coast world, giants are the people that make the runes. Or at least they're the best at it. You can use runes to enchant your gear. You have 2 of them. And each time you gain a level, you can replace one rune with a different one. When you reach certain levels, you gain additional ones. When you finish a long rest, you can touch a number of objects equal to the number of runes you know and inscribe a different rune on. It must be a weapon, suit of armor, shield, piece of jewelry, or something else you can wear or hold in your hand. And it remains on it until you finish a long rest. And you can only have 1 on each item. Now here are the 5 runes. I'm not going to go through them all of them. I'm going to go through all of them at the same time, just because it's easier this way. So you have the Cloud rune. All of them follow this sort of thing where they give you a bonus to it, like something unrelated to combat and then something related to combat. So the Cloud rune very much encapsulates what a Cloud Giant does, which is they're quite nobility heavy. So sleight of hand, because they're quite trickstery, and then deception. You have advantage on those checks while wearing the object or carrying it. In addition, when you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and choose a different creature within 30 feet of you, other than the attacker. The chosen creature becomes the target of the attack using the same roll. The magic can transfer the attack's effects regardless of its attack's range. Once you invoke this rune, you can't finish until you finish a short or long rest. I really like it. It's an ability that is potentially really powerful if you use it on a boss or something, on its little minion, and also just is really cool to use. And in addition, the rune gives you a little extra effect that allows you to be better at deceiving people. Fire rune. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, your proficiency is doubled when making any ability check using your proficiency with a tool. Again, I really like this, because it doesn't just say Smith's tools. So it means that if you're proficient in, say, carpentry, jewelry, masonry, you can still use it. In addition, when you hit a creature with attack using a weapon, you can invoke the runes to summon fiery shackles. It does an extra 2d6 fire damage and it must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained for 1 minute. While restrained by the shackle, the creature takes 2d6 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. The target can repeat the saving throw on each of its turns, banishing the shackles on a success, and you get it back on a short rest. Now, you're probably thinking, hold on a second, I just watched you talk about Arcane Archer in the previous video before you disappeared, and you were harping about it only gets 2 runes, and this one only starts with 2 runes. Well, yeah, that's true, except every one of these effects is significantly better than an Arcane Archer's effect, because they have, not only are they giving you an effect for having the rune, the ability you get is stronger, in my opinion, on average, than the Arcane Archer's abilities. There are abilities that can either, as you saw with the Fire Rune one, get a lot of damage in, or can make a boss hit its enemy, hit its friend, which can be huge. That might do more damage than the Fire Rune does, and it probably will the higher level you get. Frost Rune. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on animal handling and intimidation checks. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action to increase your sturdiness. For 10 minutes, you have +2 bonus to all ability checks and saving throws that use strength and con. This one is less good, but it still has its uses. I mean, having that +2, especially early on, is not insignificant. Like, changing your athletics from being like a +4 to being a +6, it's not insignificant. Hill rune, I always found this weird because the hill giant's canonically the weakest, but it's one of the two that has a 7th level of or higher rune, but I kind of loved that they did that. While wearing or carrying an object that bears this rune, you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have advantage on poison damage. Not very good, in my opinion. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute. That's very useful, because you can see there, and they started doing this later on, they've gone, let's not put the word non-magical there. And this one didn't put the word non-magical there. So, this is effectively going for 1 minute, you have double health. Every time they hit you for half. That's not insignificant. I know I keep saying that, but that is very useful. I mean, that's partly the reason why the Totem Barbarian, that effectively gives you resistance to every damage type, is considered so powerful. It's because it effectively doubles your health. Stone Rune. While wearing or carrying this object, you have advantage on insight, and you have dark vision of range 120 feet, which is like one of the highest you can get. There is some other ones, and there are some feats that say that if you already have dark vision, give them an extra 60. But in general, 120 feet is loads above average. In addition, when your creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and force the creature to make a wisdom save. Unless the save succeeds, the creature is charmed by you for 1 minute. While charmed in this way, the creature has a speed of 0 and is incapacitated. You put them in effectively like a dreamy, you do the whole, the birds going around your head, I'm knocked out, stunned kind of thing, but without actually giving them stunned. They repeat the save, end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success. Useful. Could put someone out of commission for a turn or two. Is also very useful for if you are planning on playing this as more of a archer or like a ranged combatant. If they've gotten this close to you, you can just go, nah, I'm getting out of here while you're in this stupid. That means you won't attack me. Also, you get a Storm Rune. Wearing and carrying this is another one of those 7th level higher ones. You get advantage on arcane checks, and you can't be surprised as long as you aren't incapacitated. That's pretty huge. Being surprised can be horrendous, especially when that's done on you guys instead of the enemy, because you technically will have a combined health that's normally less than what the enemies have. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action to enter a prophetic state for 1 minute. Till the state ends, when you or another creature you can see within 60 feet of you make an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check. You can use your reaction to give advantage or disadvantage. So this is just like your reaction becomes give disadvantage to the attack or give advantage to an attack. Very, very useful. And that's not its only ability, surprisingly. As you can probably expect, I love all of them except for maybe I don't think the Hill Giant's passive effect is particularly good, and I think the Frost Giant's active effect isn't particularly good. You also get Giant's Might. As a bonus action, you can magically gain the following benefits. If you are smaller, than large, you become large, along with anything you are wearing. If you lack the room to become large, your size doesn't change. To put into perspective, a lot of monsters are large, and large normally means kind of like, like the troll levels, like pretty freaking big. You also have advantage on strength saves and strength savings and strength checks. That's useful. Once on each of your turns, one of your attacks with a weapon or an unarmed strike can deal an extra 1d6 damage to a target on a hit. So it gives you this slight little damage bonus, but having you be large is just so fun narratively as well, and plus you get this other passive bonus. So you can kind of see what they've sort of learned about fighters with the newer ones is to give them a load of passive stuff so that they feel like they at least have something to do, and they're decent at some stuff, and all of these different little activated abilities that can be this cool little narrative thing that you do. I quite like both of these abilities. Runic Shield. You learn to invoke your rune magic to protect your allies. When another creature you can see within 60 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to re-roll the d20 and use the new roll. You can do this equal to your proficiency bonus. Okay, I like it. It's the whole give disadvantage to somebody. You can get the same thing by having the Storm Giant thing, except I guess that one has infinite and it'll only last a minute, and this one is limited, but you can do it at any point. It's one of those 7th level abilities that isn't incredibly decent, but you'll use it and you won't realise, but it probably saves you. It probably gives somebody another turn to attack or something. Great Stature. The magic of the runes permanently altered you. When you gain this feature, you roll 3d6. You grow a number of inches in height equal to the roll. Moreover, the extra damage you deal with Giant's Might feature increases to 1d8. So it's scaling, so your now damage is doing an extra d8, which isn't bad. And I love the little narrative thing of like, oh, you're getting bigger, because, it's so runes are so related to giants. Master of Runes. You can invoke each rune you know from your rune carver feature twice rather than once, and you gain them back on a short rest. It's now effectively doubled what you can use. So at this point, at 15th level, if you look at here, you have 10 charges now. So immediately you see how they've realised the problem with Arcane Archer not giving you enough to do. Runic Juggernaut. You learn how to amplify your rune-powered transformation. As a result, the extra damage you deal with Giant's Might feature is increased to a d10. Okay. Moreover, when you use that feature, your size becomes huge. And while you are that size, your reach is increased by 5 feet. So when you become huge, you can see the narrative behind you being big enough to probably not, if you're dealing with like a dragon or something, probably not actually like be the same height as it, but comparable, that you can literally have a situation where you're like fighting them. You're like fighting them, but it's like you can actually do the whole pick on someone your own size kind of shtick. And you've got this repeating increased damage and all of these runes that give you passive bonuses and active bonuses. I just think it's a very cool class. You add on a load of feats that you get. I think you can definitely see the improvement if you go from like Arcane Archer, Battle Master. They realised which one was doing well. And so the later ones, they just give you more and more little abilities you can do. I personally think the Psy Warrior, was a bit of a backstep, but I think they've realised it again with the Rune Knight. Rune Knight is at this point my favourite subclass. Samurai. This is the final one. Sorry for it being split between two, but you know, health problems, you know how it is. It's all my own fault, realistically. Yeah, starting off gets a proficiency. This proficiency is in history, insight, performance, or persuasion, which makes huge narrative sense if you knew what anything about what samurai were and what samurai are portrayed in a lot of movies and cartoons and everything, and in shows. You also gain a language of your choice. It's very, very similar to Battlemaster in that aspect. You can see why I thought that they were sort of seeing the Battlemaster as a samurai before. In addition, you get Fighting Spirit. As a bonus action, on your turn, you can give yourself advantage on a weapon attack roll until the end of your current turn. When you do, you also gain 5 temp hit points. The number of temp hit points increase when you reach certain levels, increasing to 10 at 10th and 15 at 15th. You can use this feature 3 times and you regain them on a long rest. And this is a very powerful ability. Getting advantage for like nothing and a little bit of HP is always very, very good. It doesn't give you actual extra damage, but it just means you got a very, very good chance of succeeding on hitting. Also, a little thing, I like how easy it is to remember how much temp hit points you get, because it's just like it's the instant of 5 that you are, you've gone past, right? So if you've gone past 10th level but you haven't hit 15th, you get an extra 10. I like that. Elegant Courtier. Starting at 7th level, your discipline and attention to detail allows you to excel in social situations. Whenever you make a persuasion check, you can gain a bonus to the check equal to your Wiz modifier. Your self-control also causes you to gain proficiency in Wiz saving throws. If you already have this proficiency, you gain proficiency in intelligence or charisma. I like it. I like what they're doing with this class. It's not got a lot of features at this point, which is a bit worrying, but it's giving you a load of things that not only make sense for a samurai to have, but also allows you to sort of think more about it. Like put your head into the space of being a samurai and start using these abilities out of combat to make your character feel more like what traditionally a samurai is in a decent capacity, or at least what is shown on TV and stuff. Tireless Spirit. Starting at 10th level, when you roll initiative and have no uses of Fighting Spirit remaining, you gain 1 use. Now, even at this point, we're still not really getting the extra damage abilities, but this is useful because it means you can use your Fighting Spirits a lot more liberally. It's weird because it makes it feel more like a sort of tanking class without it being one. It's interesting. I'd be interested to see how it feels playing that class when everyone around you has at least some form of increased damage, or whether the advantage you occasionally get sort of makes you feel like you're still contributing a lot. At 15th level, you've learned to trade accuracy for swift strikes. If you take the attack action on your turn and have advantage on an attack roll against one of the targets, you can forgo the advantage for that roll to make an additional weapon attack. It's part of the same action. You can do this no more than once per turn. Very useful. So it means that not only do you have the extra attack you get inherently for being a fighter, you also have this. You could effectively do, if you wanted to, if you went to weapon fighting, which would be a bit weird for samurai, but it's been done in shows and stuff before. You'd have 2 extra attacks, then you sacrifice the advantage for another attack, and then bonus action do an attack. You can have 4 attacks when everyone else has 2. You can properly go for the rapid strike idea. I like this because it's not. So the idea of this one is, I don't care about damage, which sort of makes sense because you're not using the heavier traditional medieval weaponry. I go for many attacks. Kind of what I wish you could sort of do in Rogue, without it being heavily into the sneak attack idea. Strength before dying. Starting at 18th level, your fighting spirit can delay the grasp of death. If you take damage that reduces you to 0 and doesn't kill you outright, you can use reaction to delay falling unconscious. You can immediately take an extra turn, interrupting the current turn. While you have 0 hit points during that extra turn, taking damage causes death saving throw failures as normal, and 3 death saving throw failures can still kill you. When the extra turn ends, you fall unconscious. This is a cool ability that not only will come up, it's not necessarily particularly powerful, but it really works with narrative, right? It's literally like, I'm on my last legs, but I'll do one single strike before I go. And if you get that situation where you get back up, the boss is so injured, you're almost dead, and you get that final slice in it, and then you drop down unconscious and you kill him, it will feel so good. Overall, I quite like the samurai. Initially I was a bit worried about the lack of increased damage, but I see what they're going for now and I quite like it. Quick overview of these before I'm done. Arcane Archer is by far the worst one in my opinion. Battle Master is the standard for what I feel like a lot of them should be based on, and I feel like it's such a standard that it should be literally part of the base fighter class. Cavalier is good, if not a bit iffy in my opinion, in terms of like what it can do other than it's good at tanking and it's got some unique things. I worry that it's not very powerful though, but that doesn't really matter. I don't like Champion. I said Arcane Archer is the worst one. It's kind of because I don't consider Champion even a subclass at this point. It's just not very good in my opinion. It only gives you passive effects, but that just means you're going to be sitting there going, I do a basic attack, I do a basic attack. And I know you can flavor them, but if you're trying to get somebody into it, why not give them tools to come up with ideas to flavor them by giving them maneuvers that they can think of, oh, okay, how would I do that maneuver? Give them the tools, right? Echo Knight, really cool idea. I have no problems with it. The teleport's really cool. The summoning the echo's really cool. I wish it had more than 1 health, but I understand why they did it. Eldritch Knight, not a huge fan. I feel like you don't get high enough level spells, and there isn't enough powerful synergies between spells and weapon attacks, because you only ever get to do 1, which means you're sacrificing something. So it feels like after you get extra attack, you probably never want to do the cantrip one, and you'll very rarely do the spell one. Psy Warrior kind of felt like a bit of a backstep. Kind of felt like you were taking from Arcane Archer a bit, but it's still an improvement from that. I just don't believe that at the start its abilities are that interesting, and it ends... I don't think it ends particularly interesting either. I don't hate it though. It's not as bad as Arcane Archer. It's still a step in the right direction. Purple Dragon Knight is a really interesting one because it seems to go on the idea of supporting people. Because inherently it buffs base fighter abilities, and I don't think the base fighter abilities are particularly strong, it suffers in that aspect. Rune Knight, one of my favourite. Not only does it take from Battle Master and having loads of things you can do with it, it also gives passive effects that allow you to do stuff out of combat. And in addition, I find the abilities you do get, although there's less than Battle Master, are so much more interesting and fun to use in combat. Samurai is very interesting. It seems to go in a different direction than any of the other subclasses because it doesn't care about giving you damage buffs. It cares about giving you increases to your attacks and increasing your chances to hit. It's more like an accuracy fighter where every other fighter is a damage fighter. If that makes any sense. Overall, I quite like its concept. I'd be interested to see how it feels when you're playing with other people that do a lot of damage. Cool. Well, that's a fighter. Next week will be Monk. Hopefully I won't feel as bad like this, so there won't be a break. Hope you all liked it. So we got a follow at some point, which is kind of cool. I doubt you're actually still here because I had to stop since then and then come back, and I'm assuming this one viewer is me, but it's cool. If you watch the VOD, nice. I've just been JD Moss signing off.